Hi everyone, Ben Leffel here. I'm at San Francisco City Hall, joined today by Mark Chandler, the one and only guy who has been in charge of this city's foreign affairs since the 80s. And he has observed the city level of foreign affairs, sister cities and otherwise, with China in particular, since that time. And since on week 8, we're going to be talking about citizen diplomacy, talking about the practice and the theory of citizen peace building and city diplomacy. There's no better person to talk to than Mark Chandler, who's overseen these operations for so long, and to comment on where they are today. So, Mark, thank you so much for joining me here today. And I just wanted to ask you, and I think that students really to hear from someone who's been in the field for so long and has spoken around the world on this subject and accrued this great knowledge of city diplomacy, particularly at the city level with China. How is it going today? San Francisco's foreign affairs with China, and has the Trump administration, with its various interesting nuances, let's say, has that introduced any shock to the conduct of subnational diplomacy and city-to-city relations between San Francisco and China, or even California and China more broadly?
Well, Ben, thank you so much, and greetings to the class. Study hard. First of all, greetings from San Francisco, and this is a city that created the first sister city with China, with Shanghai, a relationship that was founded over 38 years ago, just at the time when the U.S. and China normalized relations. Then Mayor Feinstein, now Senator Feinstein, created that relationship, the first between the United States and China, and as you noted, there are hundreds now. San Francisco has a long tradition of history with China. Very focused on our Pacific Rim neighbors and with China, and having relationships with Shanghai and then with other cities in China such as Chongqing and Guangzhou and Shenzhen and Tianjin, and we could go on, has been very important to us. We've done it for years and years and years, creating these city-to-city linkages, and also with the provinces. The provinces, we've been very active in programs, forums, seminars, trips with the various provinces around China. And that has been to our advantage. We've done it. Why do we do this? Because San Francisco and the San Francisco Bay Area is a very global place. Economically, we are dependent on a global market. China is a huge player in that market, and so it has always been to our advantage to create linkages with China for the businesses throughout all sectors. But it's also because we're an academic center, we're a cultural center. We want to create those ties, cultural ties and academic ties, to give our citizens a chance to enrich their lives and to create these partnerships in those areas that can grow into economic partnerships also. And it's been highly supported by our citizenry for the entire 38 years, not just with Shanghai, but with all of China. And so there have been literally hundreds and hundreds of programs and exchanges that have taken place. We have found that we don't pay much attention to Washington, D.C. and never have, okay, regardless of who's in charge back there. They're at the major macro policy level. We're more at the micro creating partnerships level, creating exchanges, creating business, creating academic ties. And we continue to do that. So although the rhetoric is very harsh at this point out of Washington, D.C., at this point it really does not affect us at all in terms of these relationships. We'll have to see how that works out. And more importantly, what we're seeing is it isn't affecting the Chinese side at the subnational level either. The cities that we work with, Shanghai, Wuhan, Chongqing, I'm working with all of those right now, are continuing, in fact, even more interested, I think, in these subnational ties, given the friction at the national level. So from our standpoint, that's the reason civic diplomacy, subnational diplomacy is so important, is that it is ongoing. It's in our own interest. It's in our partners' own interest to create these ties and linkages. And we don't get involved in some of those fights and arguments that national governments get in. So I think I'd say that at this point, civic diplomacy is probably more important than ever. It's certainly thriving, and we're going to keep our focus regardless of what Washington says.
Mark, you put it so eloquently, and I know your time is very valuable, so I thank you so much for taking
Ben.
the time.
Thank you, and good luck to everybody in the class.
Thanks so much.